Hey everybody, and welcome to this month's tips and tricks video. My name is Dave Hideman, the applications specialist for the steel segment here at Trimble. And this month, it's not really a tip or a trick per se, but more of a how-to video as far as setting up a standard parts model. So what are standard parts and why would I want to do this? A lot of folks out there have, for things like clip angles or shear tabs, they have a standard part mark that their company uses or that their fabricator that they're working for uses. So it's not going to get, or they would prefer it not to have a A1, A2, A3 type of mark, which Tekla might do by default. But instead they have a catalog number for this item, and regardless of the job, regardless of the situation, they always want it to take that standard mark because they have a stack of these sitting in a pile that they're just going to pull off a certain number of those and weld them to the beams or the columns or whatever that they're doing. So rather than have those automatically be marked in a random pattern, they want to have a specific mark for these things. So the way that you want to do that is you first want to build a catalog model, a standard part model. And what it might look like is something like this. I have just a series of clips modeled in, and these could be tabs, anything that you use on a regular basis. And then in these you want to have a certain kind of setup. Number one, they have to look exactly like they're going to look in the real project, right? So while I don't have a beam, I don't have a column here, I did use the clip angle component to create these, and then I just sort of deleted all the stuff that I didn't need, mainly for clarity, okay? So mainly for the clarity of this video, I just wanted to show these individual parts. But you have to make sure that they match exactly down to the hole location, the length, all of that stuff. The physical part has to match exactly what you're going to create in your real production model. After that, you want to make sure that you set these up with the part numbering prefix will be what the desired standard part mark would be. So, different companies have different methods for calling these out. For simplicity's sake, what I did was I went through and called these out as 2-row, 3-row, 4-row, and 5-row. So these could be anything, right? But you want to make sure that that mark, whatever it want to be, is going to be in the part prefix of that object, okay? So now let me go ahead and jump into an actual model that's using these clips in connections, and then we'll show you what the process looks like for setting up that model and getting it to use this as a catalog for piece marks. Okay, so now I'm in my production model, and I apologize for the simplicity of this model, but I'm just trying to make a point here. And I'm in a model that, as you can see, has not been numbered yet, and I did in my display options turn on the piece marking so that we can see what those are at any given moment. So before I number, because if I number right now, remember this is just going to take on the letter prefix. Let me go ahead and change my selection here just so we can see this. So normal Tekla numbering, it's going to start at A1 and then go through A2, A3, A4, A5, right? So without any changes, that's what I would get. But what you want to do is first tell this model which model is the standard part model, which model is my catalog model, and you can do that through your advanced options. So if I go to the File menu and choose Settings and Advanced Options, you want to select the numbering section here on the left. And then in the numbering section, you can scroll down to you see this XS Standard Part Model. This can also be set up using a user INI file, which if you've seen my video on the directory browser, that's the quickest way to get to your user INI file. But here I'm just setting it up in this project. So XS Standard Part Model, and then you want to enter the path to where your standard part model is being stored. Mine is in the Tekla Structures Models directory. I have a subfolder called 2020, and then the file or the project name, I called it Standard Parts. So you just give the folder path and then say Apply. And then the other thing you want to do is actually tell Tekla to use that model. So first you're pointing to it, but now if you go to your numbering settings, what I want to do, if I'm going to set up an initial numbering here, is to check the box for check for standard parts. So that is going to reference that advanced option. It's going to go and look at that model during the numbering process, and if it finds a matching physical part, it's going to use that setup that we were just talking about. So I'll say apply and OK, and then I'm going to go ahead and let's do a number modified. And let me zoom in here. You can see that that's being called in as a 3-row, that's being called in as a 5-row. So that did work immediately. 2-row, 3-row, okay? So that's all it is. You set up a model with just a field of pieces. In the part prefix, you teach it what you want it to be. And then in your production models, you set up the file path and make sure you change that option in the numbering settings. It's important to note you do not run a numbering in that catalog model. You notice I did not do that. I simply changed the prefix, saved the model, and exit. So you do not actually run numbering in that model, in that standard parts model or in that catalog model. Okay? So just a quick little tip and trick, a little how-to. Hope that helps some of you folks out there. Super easy to set up. And again, if you set it up in your user any file, that just becomes your standard. And you don't have to keep setting that advanced option from project to project. So if you have any questions or any thoughts, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. As always, we appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.